Welcome to the Upshot Interview Series. This is episode number 12. Josh Mansfield, Charlie Eisenhood with you here, and we're going to be talking with Discmania CEO Jussi Meresmaa today. He's been a frequent guest on the Upshot, and always interesting to talk about not only the business of Discmania, but the business of disc golf in general. Just a very open book when it comes to discussing how the industry is right now. And it's hard to imagine a more interesting time to talk about the disc golf industry than right now.
I think it's something that's always fascinating to talk to Jussi because it really feels like, in his opinion, the more transparent we are and just kind of honest about the way the disc golf industry works, the better chance we have to kind of move it forward. And that's something I've always appreciated about Jussi, is that his goal has always been to push the game forward through Discmania, through that brand, but as part of a bigger project, right? And part of a bigger vision and sport. And so Jussi has amazing perspective on the way that disc golf functions as a business and as an industry. And it's always fascinating to talk to Jussi.
Of course, we're going to talk to Jussi about their move to their own manufacturing facility and moving away from having Innova produce their discs, the originals lineup. We're going to talk to him about the future of the disc golf industry. We're going to talk to him about a big Entrepreneur of the Year award that he won, and he just wrote a new book. We'll talk to him about that too. So lots to get into. You're going to enjoy this one. Stay with us. Jussi Meresmaa with us next. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? They make more than just disc golf bags. Check out their new Fly Pack. You can find it on the website, pounddiscgolf.com. It is the maximum carry-on size travel pack that you've been looking for. Backpack straps, or you can take those off and convert it into a duffel. It's got room for a laptop, a tablet, your clothes, your stuff, and you know what? Some disc golf discs, because obviously you're going to bring some on vacation. $299.99, and it's just a beautiful bag. You got to check it out. It's available in multiple colorways. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out the Fly Pack so that you can travel in style. Joining us now on the Upshot Interview Series is the founder and CEO of Discmania, Jussi Meresmaa. Jussi, it's great to see you again. How are you?
Thank you, Charlie. I'm doing great.
So it's been a crazy couple years for Discmania, and I don't think we've had you on the podcast since you've made the switch to starting your own manufacturing facilities in Sweden. How is that going so far as you've started to, reproduce the originals line with your own manufacturing facility and your own plastic?
Well, that was last summer, so a little less than a year ago, and it feels like it was yesterday. So a lot of things, of course, has happened. So we are still ramping up the production. We are not really done with the factory as it's full capacity. It's still taking time, and obviously to the logistics and pandemic and all that stuff. So it's been definitely a very eventful year, 2021, and it's looking to be another great one in 2022. So lots of things happening.
What would you say have been the biggest challenges that you faced after you switched to your own proprietary manufacturing?
Well, after the decision to make this, that was obviously a big challenge and topic before. But I would say that generally making a great product, consistently and in the long run. And we have been only able to really mass release 3 products now. And I thought that we're going to do them faster. But there is everything starting from designing the plastic, because we really didn't want to cut the corners. So we actually went very deep in the chemistry of the plastics and wanted to basically create the best possible plastics that we think are good for our production. And at the same time, trying to get machine parts everywhere in the world to actually build the machines and make the discs. And then obviously one of the most important thing is having the right qualified personnel to make discs. So all that is the one big giant challenge, and I think we're getting there. And I mean, each week I can see the progress on our production and quality and everything. So if you're any familiar with the Discmania new stuff, it's going to get better. So that's our long-term, commitment.
The production facility is across the street from Latitude 64's production facility. What is the arrangement there? Are they running this factory for you, and it's really sort of like Latitude 64, but they have a factory that is only doing Discmania products? Or is this in some way your thing, and they are just helping with setting up the factory? I've been curious about this for some time.
Yeah, I mean, your first guess was really close. I mean, it would be, I mean, it would be very weird for us to go all the way to Skellefteå across the street and try to do something of our own. I mean, there is no secret on that. I mean, I've known Thomas and Svante and all those guys since, late mid 90s. So we have been able to build, of course, a great relationship. And of course, through the evolution production that we started back in 2019. So we felt that, okay, this is the right way and right direction to go. And keep in mind that I made the decision of the new factory 2020 in the middle of probably the highest peak of the second wave of pandemic. So building a factory anywhere else than in Sweden was kind of an impossible task with their knowledge and their help. So we are definitely partnering with the production know-how and disc designs and stuff like that. That is no secret. But of course, the reason why we wanted to make this kind of a standalone project is that we needed to have the control over the production, and that we have there. So we are basically running the decisions and factory, what that factory makes, and then obviously with the help of Latitude and their expertise, there we are able to make that happen.
So there is no limitation on your end as to how many discs you want to produce of what molds. That I know was a prior problem in the pandemic with the originals lineup. You have full control over quantity and
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that stock. Okay.
yeah. And I mean ownership of the intellectual property in a way that, okay, what if we want to create a disc like this is our creation and stuff like that. So it's really important that, or the plastics in general, that I mean, plastics, they might seem similar for even a player or people who are into the sport, but there is a lot of differentiations on plastic types and very small nuances. So it's very important for us that we are working with our own rules and our own set of rules.
So obviously, and it's not really a surprise, Innova has re-released some of the originals Discmania discs as their own products. And they've done so in a way that is very much keeping with the original branding and style of these discs. They're calling it the original Fairway disc. They're calling it the Mid Disc 3. And, even to the art and some of the names, it feels very Discmania-esque. How do you feel about that? And, there's obviously been a lot of discussion about it amongst fans.
Yeah, I mean, it came to me as a little bit of surprise that the biggest company in the sport are basically following what we have been doing. I understand that we did these originals together back in the day. We didn't have any choice other than just starting to make them by ourselves because we were not getting them from them. So of course we had to make the first, the tough decision in this place. But I don't see that. I mean, I've been being contacted internally and externally about my feelings and am I worried about this kind of a development? I'm not, because I mean, at the end of the day, every company is making the best choices for themselves. If they feel that, okay, this is something that we need to do with the form of Dark Rebel and sell them, that's fine. I mean, we had a really successful FD release last week, and it's already topping the sales charge of many of our retailers. So I'm happy what we are doing, and of course we need to concentrate only what we can do. We're not in control of what others do. But I must say that I'm flattered for their following on these matters.
They say imitation's the highest form of flattery, right?
Yes, and I mean, I think that they feel that, of course, we are imitating what Dave and we created together, but at the end of the day, it's a disc, and like like our guys and team players are playing against Innova team players on the course. This is like another tournament for us, so may the best player win.
You describe at the beginning, the decision to go with Innova was one based purely out of necessary logistics based on your company's size. It's obvious that Discmania has grown, that its popularity among fans has grown, and you sponsor some of the best players in the world now, and as well some of just the most I guess like well-known players, right? Simon may not be at the peak of his game right now, but obviously his social media following is enormous. What are the long-term goals of Discmania then? And what do you hope to achieve 5 or even 10 years down the road? And how do you see your company continuing to develop as it moves forward?
That's a good question, and that's my my cup of tea of thinking what we were going to do and what we're going to be in the future. And I would say that our mission is actually is make the disc golf as a global sport. So we're not really concentrated into one specific market area. I mean, obviously, US is a huge market area and we need to excel there. But for me and for our team, it's very important that we can push the disc golf into the new markets. And at the moment, as we speak, we have a very interesting developments, bubbling under, like, we're talking about countries that are, open and looking for disc golf activities. And I'm really excited about those kind of projects in the future. What comes to the Discmania brand and players, yeah, we need to be on top of mind of many players also on the active and very, these at the moment main market areas. So, supporting Simon and Eagle and Kyle and our other players is very important for us because disc golf is still a very small sport, and it's kind of I'm always trying to look that outside that little group of enthusiastic disc golf fans. I mean, of course, that is where your core audience is, but at the end of the day, we need more people to that core audience, and I think Discmania's one mission is to find and make those new fans for the game globally.
Congratulations are in order after you won the EY Finnish Entrepreneur of the Year award. And you're going to be competing in the World Entrepreneur of the Year competition that's coming up in a few weeks. How did this come about? Was this a surprise to you? Did you apply? And what kinds of, like, how big of a deal is this in Finland?
It's a very big deal, I can tell. I mean, I actually left to this trip right after that, gala night. So the next morning I was basically flying to US. So over the last 10 days or whatever it's been pretty amazing. I mean, amount of connections and emails and contacts I've been having because of that is pretty mind-boggling. And it's a big deal. I mean, EY is one of the big five, companies in this industry, and this entrepreneur competition is actually I think it's the most renovated or most known entrepreneur competition in the world. It's been running since the 80s, so it's very big deal. Uh, and I was looking those past winners of Finland, which are like huge companies, billion-dollar companies nowadays, and it's an honor to be one of those, winners in these circles. And the way how it came in was actually, this is a pretty funny story. I mean, EY is our, you know they do our books at the year end, so of course they kind of a scan. There is like 200,000 companies in Finland. I mean, there's a lot of companies in Finland, and they scan potential candidates every year. And they contacted me last summer that, okay, there is this competition, and we scanned companies. I mean, thousands of companies are scanned, and you popped up, and we would like you to have on this kind of a competition, and do you have time? Are you interested? And I thought at that time, I think I was driving to meet some client, and I said, I don't really know if I have time for this, because I mean, there's a lot of these companies that want to send you the, the certificate that you are top 100 of something, because I really didn't know about this competition. I was kind of a negative to say, okay, I'm not sure about it. And then they kind of explain it to me that, well, this is kind of a big deal. And then I said, okay, I will be with this and I can make the interview. And then I went to the first phase of interviews. It was pretty extensive, like 3 hour interview. They are really delicate what they want to know about the business. It's not about the numbers only. It's also about the entrepreneurial spirit, the story, the what do you do for the do you have a plan for the sustainability, and how what do you think about the inclusiveness and all that stuff. So they really take their things seriously. And somehow I got into the finals. That was in Helsinki a couple months ago. I think it was maybe 3 months ago. In the finals, you're actually going in front of this, jury, which is 15 people, like a high level entrepreneurs and investors in our area in Finland, and you need to make a 2 minute elevator speech of your company, and after that, you're going to have 14 minutes. I think it was 14 minutes time for the questions, and it's like it's kind of a pressured moment, and I did well on there, and of course, eventually I won the whole thing. So it was pretty mind-boggling feeling.
Wow. It sounds like Shark Tank. I don't know if you're familiar with that program.
Yeah, I watch that sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it was almost like that. And one thing that I remember, I mean, from that elevator speech and introduction or interview is that they were pretty amazed that we have been able to build Discmania as a global brand, and it doesn't feel Finnish. So they were kind of impressed of our branding and marketing.
So one thing I kind of want to talk about, and we were chatting just a little bit before the show. So you run your primary operation. It is, I mean, Discmania is a Finnish company, but your manufacturing plant is in Sweden, and then you also have facilities in Colorado, correct?
Yes.
So you are, I mean, when you say you're a global brand, you are running things all over the world then. What does that travel schedule look like? What does it look like to manage the Discmania brand in all these different places? And how does that, like, how do you, I guess, how does that run?
Yeah, a good question. Of course, pandemic time is different. Traveling is very limited, and we all have been able to settle that with our cozy Teams meetings from the couch. But pre-pandemic, I probably traveled 80 to 100 days a year. I mean, whether it's for mainly, of course, for the business and connections, and I think that's key thing, and I don't see that going to change too much, especially if I'm on this position. It's very important that we act globally, and we are running things globally, and we are there where the markets are. So it's an extensive travel plan, but I'm used to it. So I mean, I've been doing this for a long time.
All right. I'm also curious to hear a little bit about how you feel like things are going with Team Discmania so far this season. Obviously, Eagle not at 100% with the shoulder. Got an MRI this week. Simon has been, missing some events, not necessarily playing at his top level. Kyle Klein, a little bit of a shaky start. Are you concerned at all about the performance of the sponsored athletes for your team at the start of this season? I know it's early in 2022.
Yeah, I would say no. I don't really look results like tournament type by tournament. It's obvious that okay, we haven't had a lot of success in these first couple of tournaments, and of course, the most important things is that our people and players are healthy. I actually met Eagle a couple of days ago. We had a lunch at Boulder, and he was going to this MRI, and he hasn't got the test results yet. And we had a talk about his injury and the plan, and he's in high spirits. I mean, he's doing, of course, things that he can control, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to play this year, even with that little injury or a little bigger injury. We don't know yet. He's trying to avoid the knife because that will basically take him off for a full year, and obviously that's a different thing. So we all are hoping that the MRI is going to be some sort of a positive news for us, and he's going to come over here probably on Friday. We're going to test some new products and stuff like that. So he can play, but I mean, anybody who knows Eagle, he's really taking care of himself and his body. So I think in the long run, he will be better, which is, of course, great for Discmania and great for disc golf. What comes to this new daddy Simon, I think Simon is going to be Simon. So he's going to win his hearts outside the course and inside the course. And he's going to play a limited schedule this year. I mean, there's a wedding coming for him, and there's a lot of big things happening in his life. And actually, his dad is now visiting him, so there's a lot of positive things in Simon's life. And like you said, he's probably not the top three guy, week out and week in, but that has never been the goal of Simon, so nothing new there. What comes to the Kyle, I think he's expecting more from himself than anybody else, and that might be one of the reasons that okay, he hasn't been playing in his level yet. I think he had a good tournament last weekend, and I don't expect him anything else that where he left last year. So I'm happy with my team and our guys because it's not about the tournament result. It's there is a lot of other stuff. What I'm actually excited to see is that Niklas, who is just recently uh, flew into the States, is going to play his first tournament in a week or two. So I'm really excited to see. I mean, it's going to be a rough start to any European player to come to US and play the very first tournament and try to be best. But I mean, he's going to be here enough that we're going to see his skill and quality.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ella Hansen, who is now basically on full-time tour. What's her ceiling, do you think?
I haven't met Ella ever, so I haven't had a touch that okay, what is the mindset? But I would say that generally when a player, I mean level that she is playing in a high level goes full on tour, big things can happen. I mean there is a lot of room to improve because she has been playing seriously only few years. So I think that physically there is no reason why she couldn't be on top pretty much every week. This is more like a mental and putting game moving forward, and I'm expecting that we will see Ella on the top card here and there.
So I have a quick question before I move on to my actual one. I've seen a lot of chatter on Discmania Facebook pages and Instagram and Reddit asking when they're going to get a Crush Baby signature disc for Simon's kid. Is that in the works? Is can I get an exclusive here for those pages?
uh, I'm not hanging there anymore, so this is a news to me, so we'll see. I mean it is like I love our fans. I mean, I think Discmania community is one of the most active ones. I mean, they let us know when we succeed, and they will sure let us know when we don't, when we make a miss. So I love these people, and I mean, anything is possible. I can say at the moment.
Okay. The question I wanted to ask was for a team that sponsors Europeans that come over and play in the US, and then as well with Eagles injury as you talked about, and then Ella who's just barely going on full-time tour, a lot of contracts will have performance incentives and bonus incentives. But you admit yourself that, for Nicholas, it's going to be difficult coming over to the US at first and kind of acclimating to it. Are Discmania contracts, do you feel, are they structured similarly to other manufacturers, comparably speaking, in how they're structured? Or do you feel like they're different in order to adapt for those unique circumstances of being a global disc community?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, as you know, the pro disc golf scene is moving fast. So whether it's a podcast, media, players, team agreements, whatever, I think we are in a kind of a slow transition in the team agreements. That the higher level team you are in, there is more guaranteed payments to you, because of course we need to understand that these people are putting their lives on the line. I mean, they're living on the line in a way that it cannot be only just that, okay, how well you do next week. So for example, in Niklas' case, he's now the first, I could say the first Finnish real professional player in our team. So he will have a steady income whether he plays seventh or second or win the tournament. I mean, that's the base, because I understand that on that level, when you make a commitment and you leave everything else, work-wise behind, you need to have some certain of level of support. But of course, we are still a young and growing company, so we can't really offer that opportunity to every player we have on our team. But of course, then we talk about the performance and the visibility of the player, and they go all are negotiable, of course.
If you could, would you go back to your previous arrangement with Innova, assuming that they printed all the discs that you wanted and you got exactly the things that you wanted, and you could just go back and you could make that, be the plan, the continued plan? Or would you keep what you have now with the new factory?
I think this has been incrementally good thing for us. First, sharing that production with other manufacturers, Evolution Active 2019, and then finally moving into our own facility. I don't see why there is a reason to go backwards. And I mean, at the same time, you look at however you want, but at the end of the day, Innova wants to sell a destroyer and we want to sell the DD3. So it is a problematic to have them made in the same factory when things are getting bigger and they go further. So I would definitely keep this control and freedom that we have at the moment.
What's how would you say that it's gone so far in terms of sales of discs? Have you met projections? Are you feeling like you're seeing continued growth in sales? And that's not necessarily just as it relates to the new facility, but also as disc golf. Like, where's this growth of the sport right now?
Uh, I've been following this pretty closely because it's really important to understand and forecast things. So if we go now 2 years back, 2020 pandemic hit, things got really crazy, and I mean, I would say every disc golf company grew 2020. I mean, no question about it. If you didn't grow 2020, you did something really wrong, or you didn't have discs. So we grew a lot in 2020. Uh, we grew more in 2021. So of course that was able because we started to get the production under our feet, but our growth in percentage wise was bigger in 2021 than 2020. And now forecasting 2022, we're expecting, I mean, we're not going to grow faster than 2021 because it's almost impossible. We don't have enough discs for that. But I'm still expecting that we will pretty much sell every production we can make. So it's a production related question, how much we can grow. And I'm expecting, and I assume that many of our competitors are doing similar, growth path. But I'm thinking that we're going to see this year, latest next year, we're going to see some sort of a slowing down on the growth. And of course, the production has been ramping up. I mean, I know a lot of manufacturers, they have acquired a lot of new production facility or capacity, and we will see a day, I would say, in the next 18 months when there is more discs in the market than there is a demand, at least on some level. And that when things are getting interesting on the manufacturing side, because I don't know where that leads to, because it's always this demand and supply game of any market. So it's going to be interesting, and of course everybody needs to gear up for that. Now it's a great time for disc golf and being a disc golf manufacturer, but I'm not thinking that this is going to be roses all the way to the next decade. It's going to be a very competitive market moving forward. So that's my estimation on the demand and supply part. I'm confident that the Discmania is going to be pretty competitive in this market and in this space. I mean, since 2001, 21 years ago, when I established this company, we have been growing every single year in our revenue. So I think we have been, in order to grow 20 years in a row, you have to do something right. And if we keep doing that kind of stuff and innovating and getting more production under our wings, and I mean, there's cool things coming up, I'm pretty confident that we will be in a good position in this market.
When you left Innova, what exactly did you get to take with you or purchase in terms of intellectual property, whether that be molds, names? Uh, are you able to share or willing to share kind of things that are upcoming? I don't want you to give away any big surprises, but what did you get from Innova when you chose to open your own manufacturing?
It, like I said, it was a gradual transition. 2020, 2019, we started collaboration with other manufacturers. Obviously, that was a message to everybody that, okay, we're not going to rely only one source, which is obviously our company strategy. And now 2021, when we went and did things alone and kind of told, and I mean, of course, I told Innova earlier that, okay, we're going to go this way. Uh, there wasn't really kind of a, negotiation or discussion about what we can take, because it's pretty obvious. I mean, we were like a big customer for Innova. So of course, all the molds, Innova molds are owned by Innova. We don't have any part on that. So we didn't, of course, take anything with us, like physically, but you know, intellectually, we made an obvious choice of continuing our original lineup. So it would have been a very bad idea to start selling, instead of selling P2s, selling something else. I mean, because we have been selling P2s for more than 10 years, since 2008, I think that this came out. So that's our name, that's our intellectual property, those names. So it was obvious that we wanted to keep the name and then redesign the discs. I mean, and we started, of course, with the most sold discs, because that makes sense business wise. And of course, we are also thinking a lot of our fans, what they deserve. I mean, there was already a very big window of 6+ months that nobody could buy a P2 because we didn't have them. So we have a big responsibility to supply those P2s to the people. So that's where we were. And I mean, it wasn't really a negotiation. I mean, it was pretty clear. Both parties knew what their rights are, and we didn't need to negotiate.
So you just released a book. It currently is only in Finnish, but it will be released in English. Tell us about this book and what's it all about.
Yes, this was kind of a good coincidence with this entrepreneur competition. Obviously, not planned, because I started to write this book in the summer 2020. So that was around the time that I made the decision, okay, we need to go of our own as a manufacturing wise. And of course, that kind of is a very big milestone. I mean, I didn't know when that is exactly going to happen in 2021, but I knew that's the route we're going to take. And at the same time, I was thinking that, okay, 2021 is actually our 20-year birthday as a company. So it would be pretty fitting to write a book for the first 20 years, the whole story, where it began and how did it go and where are we now. And so it was kind of a, pretty no-brainer. But of course, writing a book, I've never done it. I thought it's going to be much easier and much faster process. But 18 months later, I can tell that it was probably one of the toughest projects, or longest, and project I've had. I mean, I didn't write it by myself completely. I had Erno, who is my very good friend, who actually kind of established the Discmania Inc. for us, because he was the guy who said, okay, I go there, I will be there, and we will get this going, because I wasn't able to go as a full-time living in California for years. So he took that pill, and I'm really gracious that we can share that story with him in that book. And also we had the real author, Sarah, and she was basically interviewing me for a year. I mean, we did like 15 multi-hour interviews, and that was basically the base frame of the book. And of course, there is hundreds of, paper clips, or how you say, newspaper clips and stuff like that from all these years, and internet, links and news and stuff like that. So she went through all that and put everything on the timeline. So we did really comprehensive stuff for the book. So it's not like I was there and wrote it in 1 week with my free time. So this is kind of a real deal. So it's very interesting to see. I'm starting to get some reviews of that in Finnish, and of course we need to start in Finnish. So the most asked question today is that when it's going to be in English, so we can read it, and we're going to get it translated this year. Hopefully, this is something that we can offer for the holidays. So that's the timeline.
So I'll leave you with this. You've got the first 20 years of Discmania in this book. How do you even conceptualize what Discmania is going to be in 20 years and what disc golf is going to be in 20 years? I mean, it's insane to think about how much the sport has changed even in the last 2 years, let alone 20 years. Do you expect to see this sport continue to grow to the point where it's on, big national television all around the world, and we're talking about it along the lines of the PGA Tour? Is that a scenario that you can see 20 years from now? How do you look at it?
It's definitely going to be something that we can't imagine in 20 years, and I'm sure that disc golf will find its place, whether it's ESPN prime time or not. But there's going to be, if you look at the bowling, I mean, bowling has been there forever. If you look at the golf have been there. They have their own thing. And I think that we are currently living the formation of the disc golf thing in a way that we will see in the next couple of years, where is this going to be settling? And you need to understand that the pandemic was so sudden that it basically caught everybody up. So we are just now getting kind of back on track as a disc golf manufacturers, that, okay, what do we need to produce, how much we need to produce, and who they are, and I mean where they are. But at the moment, as we speak, there is more outside disc golf companies, whether they are investors or bigger companies, thinking and dipping their toes into this. I mean, I've been contacted by a lot of research and marketing or research companies asking for consultation of what is the disc golf market in US, what is the disc golf market in Europe, and this is almost like daily thing for me now. So we're going to see in the next couple of years, there's going to be, I would say, external money coming into the sport, and things will happen much faster than we probably think. And you can see from the Pro Tour, I mean, Pro Tour is thriving in many ways, like hiring a lot of people, making a lot of content. The tournaments are getting bigger faster, and I mean, everything is just faster, and that's because of the pandemic. I don't believe that it's going to go back, because this snowball is rolling and rolling fast. So it's going to be super interesting in the next 2 years. So hopefully everybody can sit tight, because we are going fast.
It's very exciting. All right. Well, Jussi, always great to talk with you. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you, Charlie and Joss. I need to mention here that you are the guys who I'm listening every week in the morning gym when I'm running or doing my bike session. So thank you for
very
your work.
Good. Do you listen at like 2x speed to really get the motivation going on the treadmill or the bike?
No, I'm more like a feeling and slower guy.
Well, we're glad to have you as a listener. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Jussi Meresmaa with us here on the Upshot Interview Series. We'll be back next week.